Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
Thank you, Lonnie.
All
I
right.
can't wait for this tier maker. Okay, here we go. Let's do this thing, okay? All right. Here we go. This is the Big Ten tier making machine right here. So everyone loves a little tier maker. It's a great website to play around with and everything if you haven't. So I encourage you to go on that website here. But tonight's tier maker will be on the Big Ten Conference, the 2024 football season. Who are the legit contenders? Who are the pretenders based on the College Football Mafia's Big Freaking Friday Show analysis here? We're going to need your help too out there in the community. We might throw a poll or two up to kind of see where some candidates might fit here, what tier. But just to break it out here, so if you look to the left side of the screen, we've got an S tier, and that stands for a super tier. Or if you want to call it the Sigma tier too, I think the kids are saying that sometimes, but this is the super tier, so it's the elite of the elite. Then we've got our A, B, C, and D tiers. There's no F tier. There's no F-level football teams in the Big Ten, certainly. But really, those are the four criteria. So, dude, let's get into it, Moen. Okay,
All right.
so
Let's start at the bottom, right?
let's start at the bottom. Do you want to go in any certain order here? Do you want to go from like the oldest Big Ten teams to the most recent, or the new guys first?
I think we just go from worst to best.
From worst to best. Okay. So, if we're looking at worst to best, and then we're looking at D level and possibly low C level teams
We're looking
for the
at Indiana.
2024.
We're looking at Indiana.
Yeah. So Indiana, the Hoosiers. So are we saying the Hoosiers football teams?
They're D list.
So Indiana. So this is my understanding of Indiana, and if we've got anybody that can give us some more analysis on Indiana, that would be great in the chat. We'll look for it and everything. But Indiana has had basically a complete roster makeover. That's what all the smoke's saying and everything. So there's a bunch of transfer kids that are pretty talented kids. Sounds like they're going to be pretty good in the trenches. And also they're a little bit more of a philosophy of passing that football around than like historical Indiana squads. Is that going to change their destiny, though, in the Big Ten? What do you think, Moen?
No, right. This year they're going to be still at the bottom. I mean, they got a new coach. They're getting some kids in there, but they still got work to do. Until Indiana wins, they got to prove it, you know? We got a super chat here from Lonnie Johansson. Does University of Utah join the Big 12 on Monday the 1st? I believe it's actually August the 2nd. All Pac-12 teams can join their new conference. So it'd be August the 2nd for Utah.
August the 2nd, it's going to be a wonderful day. I mean, seriously, as a Ute fan, I love being in the Big 12 conference. I love just all the chatting, the jawing, like some of the games. I haven't looked forward to some of these football games preseason for a long, long time. There just wasn't that type of community in the Pac-12 other than Oregon fans. USC fans, as the Big Ten fans will find out, are something else. They're completely something else. But yeah, Oregon fans are much like Big 12 fans too. So excited Utes be in the conference here and get this thing going. All right, let's continue on looking at other C or D level candidates based on the 2024 Big Ten tier making lists for the football season. So, Moen, I'm looking at these candidates and I'm halfway tempted to put the UCLA Bruins in this D category.
Okay, I'm not going to disagree with you. They got Eric Bieniemy. They had a lot of turnover in the roster. New system. I'm fine with the UCLA to the D tier.
You'll learn this about UCLA. UCLA can field a really strong squad about once every 5 years. And then they seem to have just lulls for 3 or 4 years in a row. They lost a lot of talent 2 years ago with Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and Jake Bobo. They had a great squad and everything. Last year was more of a down year, mediocre year, coaching change. Chip Kelly's gone. Man, it just seems like UCLA is going to fall in hard times in the Big Ten. I really think that they're going to get pushed around in the trenches. They had some good trench players about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, but I don't know about the trenches now, especially in the Big Ten. I am not seeing a lot of wins on that UCLA schedule.
All right. Next one up on the D list is going to be Purdue. Uh, Purdue, again, second year coach. Just not quite there yet. Sometimes they have great quarterbacks. Sometimes they have these awesome offenses. But that doesn't mean Purdue can't win a game. Purdue are the spoiler makers. Do
Is that what
not
you
be
call them, the
surprised.
spoiler
Do
makers?
not be surprised if Purdue beats an S or an A tier team this season.
So Purdue, so give a little summary, if possible, about the Purdue team. So they're spoiler makers. They're going to upset somebody they shouldn't upset. Do you know anything about this squad in 2024 coming in?
Yeah, it's still they don't have as much experience on that both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
They're trying to build defense first, which is a new wrinkle for Purdue because Purdue usually builds offense 1st.
Mm-hmm.
They usually have pretty decent quarterback play there, but I'm not so sure about the current quarterback. We'll see. But for this season, they're D tier. But listen, don't be shocked if they go in there and upset an Oregon. If Oregon comes in there at night,
Gosh.
don't be surprised. It's weird. Purdue is, in the Big Ten, they are known as the spoiler makers for a reason.
Yeah, that's the last thing the Ducks need and everything. I believe you though. So Purdue is D tier, probably trending a little bit more towards C tier in the future here. UCLA's D tier, and Indiana, as you can see, is D tier as well. They might be there for a while by the sound of it. So now, Moan, it looks like it's a little bit more challenging though. I can think of one other school that might be D tier list, but I think that we're moving up to the C tier pretty soon. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think Illinois.
No.
Yeah.
Illinois? D tier? Oh, man. I'm thinking Illinois.
All right, we can put them C tier, but Bert, you better not screw me over on this.
Bert's not going to screw you over. Bert's a freaking good coach.
Yeah.
Lima, man, he's always been a really solid coach, well-coached team. I just don't know how we can put him in the D tier. I think that Illinois is a C tier team this year. It's on the cusp, though, isn't it?
Yeah, he had that one breakout season with the fantastic defense, but since then it's just kind of been down. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking here at a C tier team. It's looking at us in the face. It's a borderline C to D tier team. They seem to always get some upsets too, and that is the Northwestern Wildcats.
yeah, I agree. I got
So
Northwestern there.
really wish there was like a CD. You can put them in the middle there.
Northwestern actually had a good season last year. They surprised some people.
They punched the Utes, man, in the bowl game. They beat Utah in the freaking Vegas Bowl.
Yeah, they got that new coach in there. He was promoted to permanent coach, so we'll see. Those kids like to play for him, so I wouldn't be so inclined to put them C D tier. They're a solid C tier team, and they could pull an upset. You're right. If playing at Ryan Field's not there anymore, but the field they're going to be playing at is going to be brutal. It is right off the lake. I've been there. I know what the wind is like coming off there. Good luck punting in that game.
Seriously? Wow.
Yeah, it's if you haven't seen it, look it up. What they've got going there. It's basically just a flat field and some bleachers.
Yeah, I think that Northwestern overperformed last year. New coach after that Fitzgerald debacle. I think the kids were revved up. I think that the team rallied. I wonder if there's going to be regression and back to maybe the talent level of that roster and everything. So we're saying C tier, but again, for me, it's kind of a CD area. For you, it's clear C, but we're both in that C range there. So we'll keep them there. Now it gets a little bit more challenging. I think that you kind of identify the 5 schools, at least in my view, that are in that C and D tier. I think that there's more that could fall into C, but we're kind of moving up kind of a little bit of a level.
Yeah, Minnesota's C tier. I'm sorry. And I hear all this stuff about Max Brosmer until I actually see him throw in a game with people coming at him.
Yeah.
I ain't buying it. I mean, and I love Greg. He's a friend, but he talked up all last offseason about the Greek rifle, and we saw how that turned out. So I'm not willing to put Minnesota in the B tier yet. They've got a great defense, but until they can perform offensively, no way.
That's right. I'm okay with that, putting Minnesota in the C tier. Let them prove it a little bit more. Last year, they did make a bowl game. So there's that and everything. But there's been some, the quarterback transition, Brosmere, it looks like things are kind of trending the right way, get to where they were a few years back with Tanner Morgan. But probably C tier level for this year for the 2024 season. Looking at probably trying to push for a 6-6 type of record, huh? 5 wins there for the Golden Gophers. What are you thinking for record wise for the Gophers?
I think 5 wins is probably spot on.
Are we moving tiers now, Moen?
Yeah, I say we can move up. You know what? No, we're not. Put Michigan State up there.
Oh, man. I don't know. Michigan State.
New players, new coach. They had a lot of kids transfer out. They might be good someday, but not today.
Jonathan Smith's going to give Big Ten coaches and teams fits. I mean, he is a very, very good coach. I like him coming in there, the culture that he can build. C tier.
Yeah,
we can go C tier. They're
a
quick riser, though.
Yeah, he has to prove it first. So
I'm curious for the community. I'm wondering if we can put out a poll. We're moving up tiers now. And I wonder if the community can give us some feedback on at least one or two of these last teams. And the one team that I'm super curious about, if they fall in S, A, or B tier, is the Nebraska Cornhuskers. They're confusing.
We can just put A or B because they're not S.
Okay, so we can put A or B. Like, there's a lot of momentum right now. There's a lot of smoke going around the Cornhusker program that this is the year and everything. They seem to have righted something, but they haven't performed for many years. So is Nebraska an A level or B level squad? So we can jump into that, but I think that the community can make that decision for Nebraska.
Great comment from Immaculate. Jonathan Smith has a major challenge tackling that MSU culture. It has. That culture has been toxic since D'Antonio left. Well, prior to D'Antonio leaving, it was toxic too. So, but it is a toxic culture. He's going to have to go in there and win some hearts and change some minds.
He's the kind of coach that can do it. I mean, he's the kind of coach that is all about character, grit, hard work, development. And I just think that's going to work out there. I think that Michigan State's going to be a really, really strong team. And it's not going to take as long as maybe some folks in the Big Ten think about. I get it this year. This is a new roster and everything else jumping over there. But I think like in a year and certainly in 2 years, I think that Michigan State squad's going to be tough as nails.
Got a super chat here from our friend Kerry Go Knowles. I'm just ready to spot the damn ball, as Keith Jackson would say.
We're gonna play football.
Oh.
Cheers to you, sir, and I will have a drink on your behalf.
I'll have a drink too, Kerry. And Kerry, if it were up to me, I would just throw Florida State into this tier list right now, man. My man, but I can't do it. It's a little premature right now. But I wonder if the Noles were in the Big Ten, they'd certainly be, I would say probably A tier, close to S tier, if the Noles happen to be in the Big Ten Conference this year.
Yeah, they lost some pieces on defense. But that defense was so good last year. That was probably one of the better defenses in the country. Thank you for the super chat, Kerry. Much appreciated, sir.
Thank you, Kerry. All right, this list is whittling down. We're almost.
It's overwhelming that Nebraska is a B-level squad, which is exactly where I would put it as well. 3 freshmen starting. Dylan Raiola, a guy who bounced from here to there and everywhere. I would not put. Yeah, Nebraska is a B.
Is Nebraska a C then? If it's so overwhelming, is Nebraska C level? Have to show
No,
it for
because
B.
they do have a good, talented defense, and they did get a transfer wide receiver from Ohio State. So now they have a wide receiver. They just need, Dylan Rayola is a true freshman. When's the last time a true freshman quarterback walked into his squad and was super successful? There's going to be growing pains there. There has to be.
Yeah. I would hope that Nebraska gets to a bowl game. That should be
I
a
think they
7 or
will.
8 win squad, right?
Yeah, I think they'll probably be around 7 wins.
Look out, I guess, in 2025, right, for that Nebraska team. There's some high risers down here you're looking at in the B, C, and D tiers that are going to be looking at pushing up, into the A and B levels here in the near future.
Matt Rule's done a good job changing that culture at Nebraska so far, but he still needs pieces. So go back to that blue chip ratio. He still needs pieces.
That's right. That's right. All right, B tier. Looking at the schools that remain here. Next B tier team is Rutgers.
Yeah, I agree. Although I will say Rutgers is going to be much improved from last year, even with Ethan Clackamanus.
The Greek rifle, is he going to be able to get it done in Rutgers?
I don't know.
You want to bet that?
They've got a fantastic running game there. They've got a good O-line. They've recruited well on defense. Greg Schiano has put his culture back in there at Rutgers. He's the one who's had the most success with Rutgers. I look for him to continue to build. They're spending some money on NIL, though. So you got to give them that.
Well, B tier for the Scarlet Knights. Keep chopping. All right, we're moving on. I think we got the Terrapins. I think that you're going to say Terrapins are A tier, B tier here.
I'm going to say first Wisconsin's B tier.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. Luke Fickle's a great coach. He just doesn't have it all there yet. He's getting there, but they're only going to be a 7 or 8 win team this year.
I can't get on board with the B tier for Wisconsin. We're going to have to go to the community.
Okay.
To resolve that one. If it's an A tier,
I know how Tony's going to start. I know how Tony's going to vote on that one.
Let's talk about sleeper teams, like the biggest momentum. I think that just the way that Fickle gets stuff done, I just believe in the coach, the philosophy down there. Wisconsin, to me, is a program that's going to be a serious contender very soon and might have a chance. They might have a chance, an outside chance of winning the Big Ten this year.
You want to bet on that one? Because I like Wisconsin.
I'm not saying it's the chalk or anything. I'm saying there's an outside dark horse chance that Wisconsin, if you look at their schedule, it's favorable. And again, I believe in that culture. I believe in that coaching staff. I mean, I just think that Wisconsin is a riser, and just something feels really good about this team this year.
I think again it's overwhelming so far on the vote that Nebraska or Wisconsin's a B team.
Really?
Yeah. I just don't think he has all the pieces he needs yet. And we need to see how Van Dyke plays. Van Dyke might come out and set the world on fire. He might come out like he played at Miami.
Okay. Well, so Wisconsin's B level here. Okay, so next B level school is Washington for the season.
Yeah, for this season, it's Washington.
Yeah. Obviously, Washington's going to turn that thing around. Washington's a very good program. I'm a Jetfish believer. With the transition of coaching staffs, with all that's lost, with Penix gone, I mean, Washington would have been S tier last year going into the season. With all the talent hemorrhage, though, it's a B tier level school as far as Big Ten championship contention this year.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Now, are we sticking on B tier or are we going up to A?
Maryland. Let's talk about Maryland. And let's talk about USC, and let's talk about Iowa. We need to talk about those three schools.
Iowa is not B tier. I know their offense has been terrible, but their defense is so good, so good, that I don't think you can put them B tier. I'm not saying they're S tier, but I don't think you can put them B tier.
I can get on board with that. Let's look. So Iowa's going to be A tier.
Yeah, Iowa would definitely be A tier in my book.
So A tier in your book, Moen, and that is a contender, right? Like not the chalk for contention, but anyone that's an A tier is a contender.
Yes.
I believe Iowa's got a favorable schedule. I think they've got a really good schedule this year.
Right. The only thing I would have in the Maryland, I just have a question at quarterback. They've got a really good defense. They've got a really great head coach. I think we might have to put Maryland B this year, but I think they're a contender for A. But they've just got too many questions that need to be answered.
Maryland is a solid B tier team. Agreed on that one. So they fit into B tier. So the B tier is getting a little full right now. It makes sense though. There's going to be a lot of parity at that middle level of the Big Ten. It's going to be a slug fight. My gosh, there's so many dang schools in the Big Ten conference. It's bananas. Okay, so we've got 5 left. If 5 left, and there's one that's jumping out completely. That's a borderline B tier. You might want to throw them in the A, and that's the USC Trojans.
I'm going to give them the A tier.
Why do you think they deserve A tier?
Based on their offense, based on the fact that they've always had a powerful offense under Lincoln Riley. He's got so many Heisman winners he developed at quarterback. I think you have to give them the benefit of the doubt this year on defense. They allegedly improved their defense, but just for the same reason I put Iowa at A, their defense is so good you have to respect it. I think USC, their offense is so good you have to respect it.
USC will struggle this year in the Big Ten. As a program that's beat the Trojans many times in the Pac-12 era, what beats the Trojans, physicality, trench play, and the Big Ten's got plenty of that. Show me anywhere where USC can compete in the trenches. I just don't see it. They haven't been that way. I don't think that the transfer portals changed that at all, at least for this cycle. I think they're going to get completely wasted away, probably through injuries and attrition because of the trench play. And I just have a hard time seeing that type of roster with Lincoln Riley. When I talk about a guy that doesn't build a great culture, think very low of Lincoln Riley. I don't think he's a great culture builder at all. He's not Jonathan Smith. He's not Loxley, a lot of these great coaches. I'm not a believer in USC being a legit Big Ten contender. I think that they're going to be a middling team. I think they're going to get beaten up pretty hard. No, they're not Oregon.
He builds Heisman winners. So that Heisman winner is going to get you 8 to 9 wins. Probably 8. You're right.
In the Big Ten?
In the Big Ten. But, he probably will go out there and throw for 3,000 plus yards and rush for another, 500. I see your point, but I think if we're going to respect Iowa on defense based off their previous defense, I think we have to respect Southern California based on
Big Ten football is a different game, though. I mean, we all know that and everything. It's trench play. It's largely defense, and you've got to have the right offense to compete for championships. I just don't see a high-flying offense like USC doing well or that going well, especially when you got lackluster trench play. Seriously, the Utes have really dominated the trenches versus the Trojans and the physicality.
I'll tell you, we'll go to the you want them B, I want them A. We'll go to the chat. We'll let chat decide this one.
Yeah, exactly.
And I will get to that super chat. USC, A or B? All right, we've got a super chat from Mark Bowman here. Iowa could have the top-ranked rated defense at the end of the year, plus a new Australian punter and excellent field goal. Yes, you've got to respect them for that defense. Even if their offense is absolutely mediocre, you have to respect for that defense. It's elite.
It is elite. It certainly is. Yeah, we got to see what the community says. So put out a vote.
I've
the
got it
USC
out there.
Trojans.
Let's. Is there anybody else we think belongs in A tier?
So an A tier, Michigan.
I'm for it.
Are you for it because you're an Ohio State fan?
I'm for it
you
because
really
they
think
lost
so?
a lot of pieces. I'm not sold on Orgy as the quarterback. Sharon Moore, his first head coaching gig. A lot of things going against Michigan. That doesn't mean that they might. Like we said, these guys are contenders for Big Ten championship. The A-League, you're still a contender for the Big Ten championship. They've had Ohio State's number the last 3 years. Will that continue? Entirely possible. I've got Michigan A, but I believe there is an argument that could be made to put them as an S tier team. It's just the
They've lost too
schedule.
much.
The schedule for Michigan is really brutal this year. They've got a brutal schedule. So
they've lost so much talent. They lost Harbaugh. Yeah, Connor Stallions.
they have to play Texas this year.
Seriously, this Michigan squad.
Their schedule, I think, is one of the toughest in the nation.
So they've got Texas in non-conference. Of course, they're playing Ohio State.
Yeah, let me pull it up here, and I'll let you know.
We got to look at that Michigan schedule. Let's pull that Michigan schedule.
I believe they have Oregon as well.
Oh, my gosh.
So they open at Fresno State. Then they have Texas. And then they have Arkansas State. Then they have USC. And then they have Washington. Then they have Illinois. Then they have Michigan State. That's a rivalry game, so you can put that up there. Then they have Oregon. Then they have Indiana. That's an easy win. Then they have Northwestern, which should be an easy win for them. And then they have Ohio State to end the season. But they do get Texas at home. They get USC at home. They get Oregon at home. They get Michigan State at home.
Mm-hmm.
They have to travel for Washington and Ohio State.
Borderline S tier. A is probably the place.
Yeah, I think A
Borderline.
is a good place for it. So let's take a look at the poll. Wow, okay. Poll is real close. 52 to 48 on USC. That's why.
Where are we going with it?
Let's go ahead and end the poll by a vote of 51 to 47.
Wow.
USC is an A tier.
A tier. A tier. The community has spoken. USC is A tier. There we go. So we got our A tier filling up right there. Look at that Hawkeye logo. Isn't that Hawkeye logo so cool? It's
It's
cool.
unique.
It just looks you in the face, that eye just looks you in the freaking face all the time and just stares at you. It's nuts.
So these three are going to be S tier. I think we can all agree on that.
Penn State is the lowest of the S tier.
Sure.
So let's put them in first in the S tier. Adler is coming back. I mean, their schedule. How's their schedule shake it?
I can pull it up here. But they're returning a lot of starters. We'll see if Drew Aller's the real deal. I don't think they have that bad of a schedule either. They've got at West Virginia to start out. That could be a tough game for them.
Huge game for the Big 12. Huge.
Then they have Bowling Green at home. They have Kent State at home. They get Illinois at home. They get UCLA at home. Now, they do have to travel out to USC. They also have to travel to Wisconsin. They get Ohio State at home. That's probably going to be a whiteout game.
Wow.
They get Washington at home. that also may end up being a whiteout game. We'll have to see. They go to play on the road at Purdue, on the road at Minnesota, and at home. They finish out the season at home against Maryland.
They're definitely S tier, 100%. With that schedule, it shapes up very nicely for the Nittany Lions. So that's going to be a playoff team right there.
Good possibility. You know, the only problem I have with Penn State is James Franklin, their coach.
Right.
And he's a great coach, but for some reason, he makes he just has dumbass moments where he'll just completely, it'll be like 4th and 3, and he's like, run the ball. And it's like, they'll stuff it, and it's like, you know, it's like, why would you do that? Why are you being a dumbass? You throw on 4th and 3. You don't rush against the best defensive line in the conference.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'd put them at the bottom. Now, Oregon, Ohio State, I think are right there equals.
Disagree a little bit on that one. I think they're the top two, but I think that Ohio State's the clear number 1 and Oregon is the clear number 2. And the reason for that, I mean, the change in quarterback at Oregon, changing over new conference with different philosophies as far as team building and everything. I think that, again, like the physicality of the Big Ten, Oregon can play up to that, but can they play up to that every single week? I'm not sure about that. Dylan Gabriel is a great player. I don't know if he's like I don't know if he's like a game changer as far as like, you know, beating an Ohio State. We'll find out about that. I would like to see that. But Oregon is the clear number 2. I think that Ohio State, we already looked at the blue chip ratio, how good this team is with all the transfers coming in. Ohio State is absolutely freaking loaded this year.
All right. Well, we'll put them up there, and while we're doing that, I am going to let you know what the list at FanDuel is so we can see how we played out. So FanDuel has Indiana at the bottom, Purdue, Northwestern, Michigan State, Minnesota. They've got UCLA above Minnesota, Michigan State.
Interesting.
Illinois, then Rutgers, then Maryland, then Wisconsin, then Washington, then Nebraska, then Iowa. They have USC, Michigan, Penn State, Oregon, Ohio State. So I think we did good on our S and our A tiers. We got the top 6 squads in those 2 tiers. So
FanDuel's not a big fan of Michigan State, the Spartans.
No, and they're a
Michigan
big
State.
fan of, you know, surprisingly UCLA, which I don't know.
Seems like it's going to be a rough transition for the Bruins in the Big Ten Conference. But there we go. That is the tier making list here for the College Football Mafia. You can see the S tier, the super tier, the A, B, C, D tier. So Ohio State gets the top nod for the chalk to win the Big Ten Conference, while Indiana gets the low man on the totem pole.